Welcome to today's episode. We have a very exciting guest who's 30 years into the dentistry, remarkable achievements. But before we get into that, I'm Justine McKell, and this is the Wellness Growth Code podcast brought to you by our new agency, Fem Forward, specializing in helping health and wellness businesses to scale their revenue with AI. So growth doesn't have to depend on burnout. So our very first guest is a bit of a legend in the dentistry world. And I'm hoping I'm pronouncing this right, Dr. William Balanoff from Smiles Perfect.
Perfect.
Wonderful. Yep. Okay, so you've been in the dentistry, research, policy, innovation for over 30 years. I mean, I was checking out your bio. It is very extensive, from clinical practice to groundbreaking oral appliance research, helping Tourette's syndromes to helping dentists. I feel like I've forgotten something. Do you think you could maybe blow your own trumpet a little bit more?
Well, it's hard for me to blow my own trumpet. It's certainly not who I am. But yeah, I've been a dentist actually for 43 years. So a long, long time. And I did clinical practice for 30 years. And I loved it, and along the way, I tried to look at my profession as a hobby and sprinkle in there a lot of other business research, teaching opportunities that would kind of come along. And I've tried to embrace all different things dentistry, and that's really what I like to do. And of course, at the end of the day, help dentists help patients.
Yeah, I love that when I was looking at your website, that just oozes out of the words on your website, like helping other dentists. Is that kind of what drives you?
Yeah, what happens is, dentistry and being a dentist is kind of a lonesome profession. We all have our little islands called our offices. And for the most part, there's really not a lot of collaboration among dentists. And when you contrast that to, for example, medical doctors, where they're working in a hospital and they can chit chat with their colleagues and they can learn more, they can reach out. Dentists generally don't have that opportunity. So what happens is dentists living in their little cocoon, we start to feel really isolated and we start to become afraid, like we're not really sure what to do and we don't want to make a mistake or anything like that, with respect to business, not so much the clinical part of it. And we don't know who to ask. So what I've always tried to do is make myself available to dentists. It's like, listen, I was just afraid as you were, like when I was a young little dentist, and we need to find mentors. Yeah. And I like to offer that to dentists all the time, and not just for clinical situations, but for business situations.
What is the main question they're coming to you with? Like, what's their biggest pain points, or that they come to you as a mentor?
Yeah, so as you can imagine, you go to dental school for 4 years. You maybe want to specialize, so that's like another 2 or 3 or 4 years after that. And never along the way has anybody ever told you what a profit and loss statement is, or what a balance sheet is, or even how to manage a checkbook. Like, you just don't know. You don't know how to evaluate employees. You don't know how to do marketing. You really literally know nothing about how to run a business. And then if you decide to buy a business, now all of a sudden you become the CEO of this multi-million-dollar business with no business background. And so what happens is they start to make mistakes, or they don't know what to do, or they don't know how to manage their growth, or they don't know how to have, money put aside for, capital improvements. Like, they don't even know the difference between CapEx and OpEx. I mean, they just don't know. And that's really the kind of questions they come up with. So very rarely is it dental related. It's usually, and I love using this expression, and it's an old expression. It's like, I want to advertise. I just don't know what's working and what's not working. And I go, well, reach out to professionals like yourself and start to do that kind of stuff.
It is crazy. And if you look at school, like, it stems back from even schooling. Like, kids are not taught this. I came out of school not knowing about that. I had to learn myself in running my own business. And I wish it was taught in schools, basic financial literacy.
Yeah. So one of the things I did, like when I used to teach postgraduate prosthodontics, so these are dentists who are specializing in prosthetics. I used to have a business class for them where we would meet every Wednesday morning, and I would invite guest speakers, CPAs, marketing people, different, contract attorneys, real estate developers, and they would come in and they would give an hour presentation to my residents. And I said, look, I'm not trying to turn you into an accountant or a marketing person. I just want you to kind of know a little bit of the lingo. So when people do talk to you, you have kind of a general idea of what's going on.
That's so important because your audience, you're saying right now, is more dental assistants and dental dentists.
Yeah, so like when we started Smile Perfected, and Smile Perfected is a 20-minute whitening product, and this kind of goes to the stuff that I love to talk about. People always say to me, it's like, how'd you get started? How'd you get the idea? And like most things in life, we have help. So one day, literally, this patient comes to me and he says, Bill, and at this point he's calling me Bill because I'm not, getting hung up on pretense. He's like, the name of your dental practice is called Smile Perfect. So what I decided to do is I think you've perfected everything. So I'm going to call your new company Smile Perfected. And I paid for all the intellectual property. Everything is trademarked. Everything's put into your name. And here's a present to you. To which I responded, what am I going to do with this?
Yeah.
He goes, well, I don't really know what you're going to do with this, but you've been in clinical practice for 30 years. I know you're going to quit soon. And I want to make sure that the next phase of your life is available to you. And this is my present to you. And they told me that teeth whitening in its current form 13 years ago, they just didn't like the options that were available to us. So that's where we decided to take advantage of that void in the marketplace. So what I did, and this is what I encourage other businesses to do, regardless of whatever you're selling, is find out really who your customer is. And in my case, the customer was the dental assistant or the dental hygienist, because a dentist is never doing a teeth whitening procedure. We have other stuff kind of going on. We always subordinate that to somebody like our dental assistant. So what I did is I went to the dental assistants and the hygienists. It's like, what's your biggest pain point, or what's your biggest pain points? And we designed a system around those pain points. And that is really who our customer is. So everything that we do at Smile Perfected is to make sure that the dental assistant is happy.
Yeah.
Because if he or she is not happy, we're never going to sell any of this stuff. And that's really what we've done over the years.
And so I guess, like, what would you say is your biggest lesson you'd like to share with others?
Well, understand who your customer is.
Yeah.
Like I say, a lot of people think, well, we're selling Smile Perfected to dental office, so it must be a dentist who's buying our product. Rarely does a dentist ever place an order with us. It's the poor dental assistant, and he or she's got a million other things going on. And the dentist says, I think we're low on the whitening product. We want to order some more. And now you've got to make it like really simple and fast so that person can actually execute the task and do it mindlessly. And you're there to support the entire journey all the way along the course.
Yeah.
And that's really the important lesson, which is make it easy for your customers. Try to avoid barriers to entry, which is, ordering things from you, because we're all either selling a service or a product.
Yeah.
And just take away those barriers to entry.
Yeah. So it sounds like, you've really found the flow in your business. Where to from now? Like, what's your goal or your vision the next 12 months?
Yeah. We've done really well with Smile Perfected. Our business from 2024 to 2025, we doubled our business. So that was exciting in the sense that now all of a sudden you get introduced to a whole new group of problems, which is, supply chain management. But we've kind of learned that. So we're kind of muddling away. And I want everybody to know, like, the stuff that we're doing, it's not like I got it all figured out. Like, I'm stumbling along the way, just like everybody else is stumbling along the way. Like, I didn't even know what supply chain management meant a year ago until all of a sudden the orders start pouring in, and like, we need to buy some more stuff, and managing the inventory and all that kind of stuff. But we do a lot of business with a group of dentists who are members of this organization called the American Association of Clear Aligners. And they provide most of the business for Invisalign, the clear aligners that people wear to straighten their teeth. And the American Association of Clear Aligners, the AACA, the group of dentists that are part of this, they will account for about 155 to 160,000 cases in 2026. And we're the whitening product for that group of dentists.
Wow.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
But here's the market opportunity. No one ever thought about creating a whitening product specific to patients wearing clear aligners. And we did. So now we're going to be launching that product. We're going to soft launch it on March 2nd. So, just a couple of weeks from when we're, recording this podcast right now. And the hard launch will be on April 2nd. So that's exciting. And if we could just get a portion of that market, of those 160,000 new Invisalign wearers this year, then we're going to be quite happy with 2026.
Yes. And so how do you market something like that when you're saying you're launching? Like,
Yeah. So, look, there's a couple of different ways to do this kind of stuff. There's, the old fashioned way where you're just we have a newsletter and we have a big mailing list and so forth. But you have to kind of create things that support the education of those offices about what you're doing. And of course, there's, KOIs, key opinion influencers and so forth. And we try to take advantage of that kind of stuff. But what we do is we pay a lot of attention to statistics. And this is like where AI starts to help us out, which is really who's buying our product and when are they buying it and what's the click-through rate on our newsletter and what's the open rate on our newsletter and which newsletter performed better and what was the topic. And then once you know the topic, you can go back out on the internet, you can kind of draw from similar type topics, and that's what you can create in your content. They've got to start looking at like what's working, and just sometimes you just don't see it. And you've got to look at the statistics closely to kind of figure out what's going to work for you.
And you mentioned AI there. I know it's everywhere. Like you're saying that's how you use it in one way. Is there any other ways that you're using it, or any dentists or any competitors that are how they're using it?
Well, the AI, dentistry is always slow to adapt, so I love it. We kind of move at like snail speed, maybe slower than a snail. So we're probably not like the biggest industry, but where AI has really made strides within dentistry is treatment planning and predicting patient outcomes. So, for example, you take Invisalign, which is the clear aligners that patients wear over their teeth. So they come in with crooked teeth, and the patient wants to know, like, what are they going to look like if they spend $7,000 getting their teeth straightened? And what Invisalign has done really well is they've taken the database of literally millions of patients that they've treated over all these years, decades, and now they're able to predict and show a visual to patients of exactly what they're supposed to look like at the end of this whole entire thing. And other companies like, for example, Avident, which is a prosthetic manufacturing company based out of Arizona, Scottsdale, Arizona. What they're able to do is they're able to take patients who need dental implants and prosthetics teeth over the top of the dental implants, and they're able to create a digital workflow and a digital surgical and prosthetic solution that will allow that patient to know exactly what they're going to look like at the end of the treatment. And that is like really, really exciting stuff. So where dentistry is taking advantage of AI is treatment planning, sequencing, and then predicting the patient outcome. I'd like to see the next step for dentists in AI, which is to educate the public out there to what we do. Because I tell everybody all the time, dentists do a lot of amazing things. We just don't tell everybody all that we do because we think it's like, that's commonplace, but it's not. And patients want to have options. We just haven't done a good job of articulating that.
Yeah, I agree with that education, like how it all begins in the mouth. So people need to know more about that as part of the whole health and the wellness. And I guess you kind of answered the next question, like in terms of trends that you're seeing in the industry, you talked a little bit about like the AI and what you're creating. It sounds like you're kind of ahead of the trend. You're creating the trend.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the other thing that we're going to start to see within dentistry, and believe it or not, dentistry and medicine have never been linked in the United States, at least. In other countries, they have. Dentistry should be a specialty within medicine, and it's not in the United States. So what does that really mean? So dentistry has kind of tried to prove over the years that the mouth is actually connected to the rest of the body. And for some reason, medical world doesn't want to see it that way. So what we've done and what I've done with a group of colleagues, a person by the name of Austin Krosanoff, who's like a very talented researcher, we've actually published papers to show that performing certain dental implant procedures can actually lower the A1C in type 2 diabetic patients by getting rid of infection inside their mouth. And we published that in a peer-reviewed journal. So on the major medical side, like how do you get major medical to pay for dentistry? Well, major medical is like, well, we don't really want to do it because we don't really know if you're actually making these patients healthier. So this first article that we published about 2 years ago showed that we can lower A1C, which was like incredibly exciting. So we know physiologically we're helping patients. The next thing that we needed to do is, are we helping patients psychologically? Because there's this idea in medicine, and it's a good idea, which is just because you can do a procedure, should you do a procedure? Like, do you really need to be cutting people if you don't really need to be cutting them? Because I understand you're going to be making money at it, but is it really making the quality of their life better? And in the next study we did, and again, we only published in peer-reviewed medical journals, And this is going to seem really obvious, but no one ever like published it. When people lose their teeth, they get depressed. Like they're sad. They can't interact with their family. They feel bad at their job. They can't eat anymore. So we do this retrospective study. We look back at the data and we find out that when patients lose their teeth, they're sad. They're depressed. And when they get their teeth back, you'd imagine, boom, they're like happy again. So why does this all become important? Well, if we can improve the patient's quality of life with the way they interact with their family and friends, if we can improve the quality of the life, the way they actually interact with their coworkers, and we can improve the relationship with food, they're going to be happier people. And it turns out that major medical companies are concerned about this because the amount of money they spend treating patients with type 2 diabetes or treating patients because of depression, and that creates a cascade of other medical issues. If you can eliminate those two big costs to major medical companies, all of a sudden it starts to make sense to treat patients who have gum disease, who have lost their teeth, because at the end of the day, major medical companies will save hundreds of thousands of dollars in the lifetime care of those patients.
I really hope that could happen, because I think I was chatting to a chiropractor the other day, and just how we are not looking at the whole body as health and wellness. It's just usually just take a pill and you'll be, or, you know, why are you having this headache, and going more under the surface. So I really hope that you can join that to the medicine world, because as you said, it's going to be, so many benefits there.
No, we're really trying. The study that we're just really proud of, and I love talking about health and wellness, which is the point of this podcast, is we're in the process of publishing another paper right now. And most people don't know this, and quite honestly, I didn't know this a year ago myself. The actual recovery rate of a patient who's going into drug rehab because of an opioid addiction, I thought it was a big number. I thought, well, you go to rehab, you get better, and you can join society. It turns out that only 2% of the patients who go into rehab actually do well after rehab. 98% of them go back to their drug habit, which is heartbreaking to me.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm working with a company, a nonprofit out of Tennessee called Smiles for Recovery. Mm-hmm. And what we did is we looked at their data. And when they put teeth back in drug addicted patients' mouths, the recovery rate goes from 2% to 50%. That's a big deal, because now if you can give these people teeth, they're going to be more likely to get a job because they can smile at the interview. They can get housing because now the landlord doesn't think they're renting to a homeless person. They can have a relationship with somebody in their life. They can start to become part of the fabric of the community again. And as a dentist and as somebody who cares about this kind of stuff, I want to be able to make the world a better place. I can't change the world, but I can make my world better within dentistry. So if we can make patients physiologically healthier, psychologically healthier, back into the fabric of the community, then as dentists, we're going to start to make the world a better place.
And I guess talking about growth, when we were having our call before, you talked about how it's been 13 years in the making. It looks like an overnight success, but really, it has been, lots of years. What would you, I guess, say to other dental teams? What might they misunderstand about growth?
Yeah, I think what I would say to just not dentistry and dental offices, but to all businesses is it takes a while. We like to think that, you're going to be able to make $1 million in a year. It takes a while. Yeah. And I think the hardest part for all of us is we come up with like a really good idea, and we've got a group of customers and everybody seems to like us and so forth. But we have to reach out to professionals. We have to reach out to other people who know what they're doing more than you do. And that includes whether you're reaching out to somebody in the marketing world, somebody who understands SEO or AdWords or meta advertising. Like, you got to do this kind of stuff. You don't know how to manage this stuff, and you've got to reach out to professionals and people that you can trust and interact with. And so, like, on the advertising marketing side, that's really what I encourage everybody to do. Talk to professionals who really know this stuff. The digital world is changing so fast. Like, the algorithms that Google is using for AdWords is not the same thing. I mean, something as simple as, like, how does your business get into the map pack? So you got the paid ads at the top, the map pack, and the SEO at the bottom. Like, how do I get my business into the map pack? It's like, okay, well, that's usually Google reviews. It's like, okay, like, how does that all work? Well, look, at a guy like me has learned this because I've suffered losses over the years of, like, not understanding this stuff. And I just needed somebody to kind of explain it to me. And, like, once they explain it to me, it's like, well, that kind of makes sense. So Google is going to reward me if I answer bad reviews and good reviews, because Google wants to make sure that I'm part of this community of people who are interested in my business. It's like, well, I didn't even know that was like a thing. So, okay, ask professionals like people like you, this is your life. You know this kind of stuff. I don't. So reach out and ask and get some help.
Yeah, and you're right, it is constantly always changing.
I don't know how you guys keep up with it, quite
Well,
honestly. I mean, it is just
yeah, it's a crazy world. Like, yeah, my husband's a builder, and we're trying to get him up the top of the AI search engine at the moment too. And then I guess in your business, like, is there anything, if you had a magic wand, is there anything that you want to fix right now, or anything holding you back from where you want to go?
Yeah, I think the magic wand is this. Like I said earlier, 50% of my advertising is not working. I just don't know what half that is. So like, how do I get hold of more dentists and more dental groups like the AACA? And we struggle with that. So one of the reasons I love doing podcasts like this, and you never really know. It's like fishing. You throw the bait in the water and you're not sure if you're going to catch a fish. So you've got to like work really hard at connecting on a very personal level with people like yourself. Like, it's like, I'm going to help you and you're going to help me. And I don't even know if I'm going to be able to help you or when. It could be 6 months from now. But the thing is I love AI and I love all the things that are going on in the world today. But at the end of the day, the content that we're generating today and the relationship that we're going to be able to create with this podcast and just chit-chatting, two people just talking, is a really, really important thing. So yes, the digital world is here to stay, but at the end of the day, it also depends on interpersonal relationships and just connecting with people and creating original content. And when you start to do that, you're going to be successful. So if I can wave my magic wand, I want to do more and more and more of these kinds of things because I just don't know what's going to work. And I just have to keep on dropping the bait in the water to see if I'm going to catch a fish.
I love that. And I also love on your website, and I think we talked about this before, but really it's not about chasing profit. Like, you really have a passion.
No.
And that's what's always going to win in the end. So
I tell people all the time, if money is your motivation, you're always going to be disappointed because there's never enough.
Yeah.
There's never enough.
Yeah.
So I tell everybody there's 3 reasons why we do things as dentists. One is to do what's best for the patient. So that's like the number one rule in dentistry. Us dentists, we have to worry about getting sued. So we worry about our dental license because we work so hard to get it. So we want to make sure that we're protecting our dental license. So that's rule number 2. Make sure you do what you're supposed to do and you're going to protect your license. And rule number 3 is you're allowed to make money as long as you follow the first 2 rules. And that's really the goal of Smile Perfected, which is just to help dental offices give what patients want. And the number one requested service of a patient to a dental office is a brighter, whiter smile. So that's really Smile Perfected's mission.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that was brilliant. And if anyone's listening that is a dental assistant or that is trying to get in touch with you, what would be the best way?
Well, there's a couple of different things you can do. The first thing, of course, is go to the website, smileperfected.com, which, is the easiest thing to do if you want to learn more about the product. But the other thing that I offer out, and I've done this my entire career, is I love to give out my phone number. Mm-hmm. And I've given out my phone number for a couple of different reasons. And the story that I love to tell about this is I was on the CBS show called The Doctors about my Tourette's appliance. And at the end of the show, they said, well, how could moms and dads and people with Tourette's reach out to you? And I said, well, I want you to put my phone number on the website. And they're like, are you crazy? You're going to have all kinds of people calling you. I go, good. They should be calling me.
Yeah.
So what I do for dentists and I do for dental offices is like I give out my phone number. And it turns out that when people have a question, they really want to talk to you most of the time. And I would say 99.9% of the time, people are very respectful of your time and they just want to sit there. So I tell dentists all the time, look, I don't practice anymore. I'm not your competitor. I'm here to help you. And maybe you can learn a lesson from me. You can just talk about dentistry and maybe I can give you a little tiny quip of something really good. So my phone number is 954-683-2693. And it will literally go to this phone right here.
Yeah, I saw that.
So I will answer that call.
Yeah, and I'll put that in the show notes too. This has been such a pleasure and an insight. Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much for being on the Wellness Growth Code. Thank you for your time and everything that you've achieved to date and everyone that you're helping. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.